If you're waking up 2 or 3 times a night to urinate, you already know what it's costing you. You're exhausted all day, your energy's gone, and these wake-ups increase your risk of falls and fractures by 20%. One misstep in the dark can change everything. The problem isn't how much water you're drinking. After 60, your kidneys don't concentrate urine the way they used to. Your bladder lining gets irritated more easily, and your melatonin production has dropped tenfold since you were a teenager. But here's what most seniors don't know. 3 specific foods eaten at the right times target each of these root causes. Most see their nighttime trips drop to 1 or 0 within 1 to 2 weeks. Let's start with the food that directly addresses that melatonin drop. What happens to your kidneys when you restore those levels is the missing piece most seniors never discover. Walnuts contain plant-based melatonin and tryptophan, the exact compounds your body needs to regulate nighttime urine production. One 40-gram serving delivers 118 nanograms of melatonin and 84.6 milligrams of tryptophan. Here's how this connects to nighttime urination. Your kidneys have melatonin receptors that control a built-in nighttime lock. When that lock closes after sunset, your kidneys concentrate urine so you can sleep through the night. But when melatonin levels drop after 60, those receptors don't get the signal they need. The lock stays open. Your kidneys produce dilute urine all night long instead of concentrating it. More volume means more trips to the bathroom. A 2025 study tracked seniors who ate 40 grams of walnuts daily. After 8 weeks, their urinary 6-SMT levels increased significantly. That's the metabolite that shows your body is actually producing and using melatonin. Their sleep latency shortened by 1.3 minutes, and they reported better overall sleep quality. But here's something most diabetics don't know about walnuts. There's a hidden mechanism that actually improves your insulin sensitivity overnight while you sleep. I'll explain exactly how that works in a moment. For diabetics, walnuts offer an additional benefit. Each serving provides 45 milligrams of magnesium, which supports insulin sensitivity without spiking blood sugar. The tryptophan converts to serotonin and then melatonin through a natural pathway that doesn't interfere with glucose control. Timing matters more than most people realize. Eat your walnuts 2 to 3 hours before bed, ideally with dinner. Not as a bedtime snack. Your body needs time to convert the tryptophan into melatonin, and that synthesis peaks naturally a few hours after consumption. If you eat them right before bed, you trigger digestion when you should be winding down, which counteracts the sleep benefits. The dose is exactly 1 handful, which is 40 grams or about 14 walnut halves. More won't help. You're not trying to flood your system with melatonin, you're providing the building blocks. Your body needs to restore its natural production, and at 185 calories per serving with 4 grams of net carbs, it fits into most diabetic meal plans without adjustment. Preparation is simple, raw or lightly toasted. Avoid candied versions or walnuts coated in sugar or honey. Those spike your glucose and worsen nocturia instead of helping it. The goal is stable blood sugar overnight, not a roller coaster that wakes you up. Most seniors notice fewer wake-ups within 4 to 7 days. That's how long it takes for melatonin levels to stabilize and for those kidney receptors to start responding again. You're not masking symptoms, you're fixing the mechanism that broke down. For diabetics tracking carbs, 40 grams of walnuts contains 4 grams of net carbohydrates after accounting for 2.5 grams of fiber. That's manageable within most meal plans, especially when you consider the magnesium and healthy fats that actually improve insulin response. The 2.5 grams of fiber also matters for bladder health. Constipation puts pressure on your bladder, increasing urgency and frequency. Walnuts address that without the bulk or gas that comes from high-fiber supplements. What you should expect: the first few nights you might not notice much. By night 4 or 5, you'll probably wake up once instead of 3 times. By the end of the first week, most seniors report sleeping through to morning or waking just once instead of multiple times. That's the melatonin pathway restoring itself. But here's the problem. Walnuts can't solve alone. Even with concentrated urine, there's something embedded in your bladder wall that sends false alarm signals. That's the 3 a.m. wake up where you rush to the bathroom and barely produce anything. If you don't address this, the walnuts won't be enough. Those false alarms come from bladder wall inflammation. After decades of exposure to acidic foods, caffeine, and high blood sugar, your bladder lining thickens and becomes hypersensitive. The culprit is galectin-3, a trigger protein that embeds itself in that wall and sends panic signals to your brain even when your bladder is barely full. Baked pears shut this down. One medium pear contains 6 grams of pectin, a soluble fiber that forms a protective gel coating on your bladder lining. Pectin addresses this in 2 ways. First, it soothes that inflamed bladder wall directly. The gel it forms acts like a barrier between your urine and the sensitive tissue underneath. Second, it functions as a prebiotic in your gut, feeding beneficial bacteria that reduce systemic inflammation. Less inflammation in your gut means less inflammation reaching your bladder through your bloodstream. Modified citrus pectin has been studied for bladder cellular health, and researchers found it works by inhibiting galectin-3, a protein linked to bladder cell dysfunction. Pear pectin offers a gentler, food-based version of the same mechanism. You're not taking a supplement, you're eating a fruit that's been used for bladder support for generations. For diabetics, baking the pear changes everything. When you bake a pear at 350 degrees for 25 minutes, the heat breaks down the fructose into slower absorbing compounds. Your blood sugar doesn't spike the way it would with raw fruit. Adding 1 teaspoon of cinnamon improves your insulin response by 10 to 29%, according to multiple studies. That's significant for overnight glucose control. Timing is critical here too. Eat your baked pear as dessert 2.5 to 3 hours before bed. That gives your body time to digest and absorb the pectin without causing a late-night glucose spike. If you eat it right before bed, you're asking your pancreas to work overtime when it should be resting. Here's how to prepare it. Core 1 medium pear, leaving the bottom intact so it holds its shape. Sprinkle with 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and add 1 teaspoon of butter if you want. No added sugar. Bake at 350 degrees for 25 minutes until it's soft but not mushy. That's it. 1 medium pear contains 25 grams of total carbohydrates and 6 grams of fiber, which gives you 19 grams of net carbs. If you're using mealtime insulin, plan accordingly. Most diabetics can handle this as part of their evening meal without adjustment, but check your response the first few times. Pears have a major advantage over apples when it comes to bladder health. They contain only 0.1% citric acid compared to 0.5% in apples. That lower acidity means less irritation for sensitive bladders. If citrus fruits, tomatoes, or vinegar make your urgency worse, pears won't trigger the same reaction. The water content matters too. Pears are 84% water, which supports kidney function without overloading your bladder before sleep. You're getting hydration from food instead of drinking a glass of water an hour before bed, which is exactly what you're trying to avoid. If you take evening diuretics, time your pear for before they kick in. Most diuretics peak 4 to 6 hours after you take them. Eating your pear before that window means you're not fighting against the medication's effect. What to expect? Within 5 to 10 days, you'll notice fewer false alarms. Those middle-of-the-night wake-ups where you feel urgent but barely produce anything start to disappear. That's your bladder wall calming down and regaining normal sensitivity. The pectin needs time to build up that protective coating, so don't expect instant results. But by the end of 2 weeks, most seniors report a noticeable reduction in urgency-driven wake-ups. Now you've reduced urine volume and calmed bladder sensitivity, but there's still one weak link. Even minor bladder signals will wake you up if your sleep isn't deep enough to filter them out. That's where the third food comes in. Whitefish delivers tryptophan without the heavy fats that disrupt sleep and kidney filtration overnight. A 100-gram serving of cod or haddock provides 250 to 300 milligrams of tryptophan, which is the optimal range for improving deep sleep without overloading your system. But here's the real reason most seniors wake up at 3 a.m., and it's not what you think. You don't wake up because you have to urinate. You wake up because of a blood sugar drop that triggers an adrenaline spike. Your body panics, floods your system with stress hormones, and jolts you awake. Only then does your brain notice your bladder has some urine in it, and suddenly you think that's why you woke up. Whitefish prevents this cascade. Seniors need protein to preserve muscle mass, especially overnight when your body does most of its repair work. But red meat increases uric acid production, which forces your kidneys to work harder during sleep. That extra workload means more urine production at exactly the wrong time. Whitefish gives you easily digestible, low-purine protein that your kidneys process efficiently without generating excess waste. Your kidneys can focus on concentrating urine instead of filtering out uric acid and other byproducts from heavy proteins. The tryptophan pathway works like this. Tryptophan converts to 5-HTP, which becomes serotonin, which finally converts to melatonin. Whitefish contains vitamin B6 at 0.3 milligrams per serving, and that B6 acts as a cofactor in this conversion. Without enough B6, the pathway stalls. With it, you're supporting the entire chain from protein to sleep hormone. Clinical doses show that 250 milligrams of tryptophan improves stage 4 deep sleep, which is the restorative phase where your body repairs tissue and consolidates memory. 1 gram of tryptophan reduces sleep latency in people with mild insomnia. A 100-gram serving of whitefish puts you right in that therapeutic range without needing supplements. For diabetics, whitefish is ideal because it contains 0 carbohydrates. Your blood sugar stays stable overnight, which prevents the dawn phenomenon spikes that trigger early morning urination. The high-quality protein in whitefish stabilizes your blood sugar overnight, preventing those glucose drops that trigger adrenaline spikes. No adrenaline spike means no jolt awake, which means your brain never gets the chance to notice your bladder in the first place. Timing is everything with fish, just like it was with walnuts and pears. Eat your whitefish as the main protein at dinner, 3 to 4 hours before bed. That window allows complete digestion. The tryptophan reaches your brain just as your natural melatonin synthesis should be ramping up for the night. Preparation matters because added fats delay gastric emptying. If you fry your fish in oil or butter, your stomach takes longer to process it. That delays the tryptophan reaching your brain and can cause discomfort that disrupts sleep. Bake your fish at 375 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes, or steam it for 10 minutes. Simple preparation, maximum benefit. Portion size should be 4 to 6 ounces, which is 113 to 170 grams. That range provides 280 to 500 milligrams of tryptophan, which is enough to support sleep without overloading your kidneys with excess protein to filter overnight. The best choices for seniors are cod, haddock, tilapia, and sea bass. These have mild flavor and flaky texture, which makes them easier to chew if you have dental concerns. They're also widely available and affordable compared to specialty fish. Season with lemon, but use a small amount. Too much citrus can irritate your bladder. Dill, garlic powder, and herbs work well without triggering urgency. Avoid heavy salt, which causes fluid retention and increases nighttime urine production. Your kidneys have to work harder to balance that sodium overnight, which means more trips to the bathroom. If you use insulin, count whitefish as pure protein with no bolus needed. Some people find that eating protein at dinner allows them to reduce their basal insulin slightly because the protein prevents nighttime lows, without raising glucose. Track your response for a few nights before making changes. What to expect? Within 1 to 2 weeks, you'll notice deeper sleep cycles and fewer interruptions. This isn't just about bladder signals. The serotonin-melatonin pathway strengthens with consistent tryptophan intake, which means your sleep becomes more consolidated. You spend more time in deep sleep and less time in light sleep, where bladder signals easily wake you up. Whitefish also supports declining kidney function in seniors without the phosphorus overload that comes from red meat. As your glomerular filtration rate naturally decreases with age, choosing low-purine proteins becomes more important for maintaining kidney health while still getting the nutrients you need. But here's where most people fail. If you eat these three foods at the wrong times, they cancel each other out. They can trigger digestion when you should be winding down, spike your glucose right before sleep, or send tryptophan to your brain before your melatonin synthesis is ready. Get this wrong and you'll see zero improvement. Here's the exact timing sequence that makes all three foods work together instead of against each other. A complete nocturia-stopping dinner looks like this. At 6 p.m., eat your whitefish as the main protein with non-starchy vegetables. At 7:30 p.m., have your baked pear as dessert. At 8 p.m., eat your handful of walnuts with a cup of herbal tea. That timing allows each food to work through its pathway without interference. For diabetics planning meals, you're looking at approximately 25 to 30 grams of total carbohydrates, mostly from the pear. The high protein from fish and healthy fats from walnuts keep your glucose stable for 8 hours or more. No middle-of-the-night spikes that trigger urination. No early morning lows that jolt you awake. Fluid strategy matters as much as food choices. Drink normally with your dinner. Your body needs hydration to process the eustachido meal and absorb nutrients. After 8 p.m., limit yourself to small sips only. The water content in the pear provides additional hydration without filling your bladder before sleep. What not to do: avoid caffeine after 2 p.m., even if you think it doesn't affect you. Caffeine has a 6-hour half-life, which means half of it is still in your system 6 hours later. If you drink coffee at 3 p.m., you still have caffeine working against your melatonin at 9 p.m. Skip alcohol entirely. It disrupts melatonin production and acts as a diuretic, forcing your kidneys to produce more urine overnight. Avoid spicy foods at dinner because capsaicin irritates the bladder lining. And stay away from high-sodium processed foods that cause fluid retention your kidneys have to deal with while you sleep. If you take evening diuretics, eat this dinner before they reach peak effect. Most diuretics work hardest 4 to 6 hours after you take them. Timing your meal before that window means you're not fighting against the medication while trying to sleep. Pair this eating plan with basic sleep hygiene. Keep your room dark with blackout curtains or an eye mask. Cool temperature between 65 and 68 degrees helps melatonin work more effectively. No screens for 1 hour before bed because blue light suppresses the melatonin you just worked to build up. Realistic expectations: 60 to 70% of seniors see 1 to 2 fewer wake-ups within the first week. You won't go from 4 trips to 0 overnight, but going from 4 to 2 makes a massive difference in sleep quality and daytime energy. Full benefit takes 2 to 3 weeks as your melatonin levels stabilize, bladder inflammation calms, and sleep cycles deepen. If you see no improvement after 10 days, something else is driving your nocturia. Prostate issues in men, uncontrolled diabetes, sleep apnea, or medications like blood pressure drugs can all cause nighttime urination independent of diet. That's when you need to see a urologist or sleep specialist for a complete evaluation. Cost and accessibility: walnuts run $8 to $12 per pound, which lasts about 2 weeks at 1 handful per day. Pears cost $1 to $2 each when in season. Frozen whitefish fillets are $5 to $7 per pound. Compare that to sleep supplements that cost $20 to $40 per month and often don't work. You're spending less while getting real food that supports multiple aspects of health. Prep-ahead strategy makes this sustainable. Bake 3 or 4 pears at once and store them in the refrigerator. Reheat for 30 seconds in the microwave before eating. Portion your walnuts into small containers so you grab exactly 1 handful without thinking. Buy pre-portioned frozen fish fillets that you can pull out and cook in 15 minutes. But here's what most seniors miss after they start seeing results: your body adapts to the same melatonin source within 10 to 14 days, and the effect plateaus. The receptors that respond to walnut-derived melatonin become less sensitive with constant exposure. You'll see improvement for 2 weeks, then wake-ups start creeping back up. The solution isn't stopping walnuts, it's rotating between 3 specific nuts that prevent your receptors from adapting. Each one works through a different pathway, so your body never gets the chance to down-regulate. Without this rotation, you're back where you started within 2 weeks. The video on screen shows you exactly how to protect your results long-term instead of watching them disappear. Trust me, you won't want to miss this.